Hello, everyone. I'm Tori.
And I'm Tim.
And this is the Stuck Together podcast. Welcome back.
Welcome back for another week.
Episode 5, boy.
Yeah, we are on episode 5.
Yeah.
Boy.
Boy. Boy.
Boy. Episode 5, boy. We're hype. We're excited.
Hype. We are. We are. You minimized us so we can't look at ourselves.
Yeah, I think it'll turn out better.
I already am noticing a difference.
See, it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about.
Worried about myself.
Well, the first few ones we had to make sure everything was like working, and
Right.
now we don't have to do that, and now we can just trust that everything's good.
Yeah.
Everything's fine, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah. Do we want to pull up at least our audio so we know how long we've been talking?
We could check it periodically.
Yeah, true.
That's fine.
True. Yeah. Now it really just feels like we're talking. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're just talking to
Wow.
ourselves. We're not like
Oh, it's so
watching
weird.
ourselves on video back.
Some narcissists over here just watching ourselves.
Yep, I noticed in the last one or two, like I'll glance over at the video. I'll glance over at the video every now and again, and I don't want to do that. So
Right.
it's minimized. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you all again so much for all the support on the podcast.
We appreciate it a lot.
We have heard so much good feedback, so many positive things. Oh, I just thought we can't see the Grim cam. That's okay though. It's not for us. It's for the people.
It's for the people watching. They can watch the Grims while they listen to us. Oh, there's two back
Both
there
of
now.
the kitties. But yeah, I wanted to say that first. Thank you all so much for all the support. It's been great. It's been super fun so far hearing everyone and all their thoughts. And there was one other thing I was going to say before.
Oh, no.
I'm going to do this every time.
You're going to forget?
Yeah, every time. No, I don't think there was too much. I mean, I guess maybe a good thing that we could ask each other is like, how's the week been?
Yeah, well, mine's been good. It's like coming off the end of the gym show. Everything's kind of settling down and trying to get in the routine of doing the podcast, going to work, doing all the stuff. And yeah, it's good to be like, if work's like too crazy, I feel like you can't sort out anything else in your life because you're like too worried about like everything that's happening at work.
Yeah.
And so like it's nice when you can finally like let that go, and then when you're home, you're home.
Yeah.
You know?
I know our apartment was a mess because I just like couldn't. There was so much like my clothes were everywhere. I was so tired every day. I was like, the last thing I want to do, like the most I could do was the dishes. I was like, I gotta do the dishes because like we both like dirty dishes bug us and we have to cook with them. But I was like, that's the most I can do. And then everything else is just second, you know? So finally on my day off yesterday, I cleaned a bunch, which was so nice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The house looks amazing.
Thank
it
you.
Looks fantastic. She did a really good job, and it's like feels so clean. It feels good.
Yeah. When I get in it, I just go for it, you know? Yeah. I start cleaning like crazy. And when I don't want to, it gets bad. I get really lazy. I don't want to call it lazy. I get overwhelmed really easily by all the things I have to do. And so then I just don't do any of them. But is there anything else you want to mention before we talk about the tweet?
Well, you haven't talked about your week.
Oh, right. Yeah, my week was pretty good. I mean, we mainly did the same thing most of the week. Both of us just worked a lot.
Yeah, part of me was like, why is she asking how my week was? I mean,
well,
we can ask
because
for them,
I
but
feel like
you know my week.
we should do it like every week. I feel like it's good to talk about.
We can have something we haven't told each other or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Oh.
Is she fucking stuff
Scout?
up over there?
Scout. Hey.
Away from the wires.
Yeah, no wires. Grams. Yeah, that'd be fun to like try to think of something that the other one doesn't know about our week.
Yeah, tell you something
Ooh,
that happened that hasn't happened. that I haven't told you about.
Yeah.
Has something that's happened that hasn't happened. What is this podcast turning into?
Just lying to each other. 2 truths and a lie. What happened this week?
Oh man.
I swam with the manatees. I did the dishes. And I cleaned the litter box. Which ones are the truths?
Ooh, that is so tough.
I know.
Can I get back to you next week when I figure out which one you didn't do? Okay, well, we can talk about the tweet.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. So last week we weren't planning on talking about work as much as we did in Crystals and our relationship. Like we said, we had stuff. And so it's been like 3 weeks now that I saw this tweet, and normally when I see something, I'll tell Victoria about it. I'll send her the video that I watched. I'll talk to her about the tweet that I saw or whatever it is. And I don't spend time on Twitter. There's been like a few times where I tried to get onto it and like do the thing for the music thing or whatever, you know. And every time I'm just like, I'm out. Like, y'all are crazy. I don't want to be here. I'm not into this, but. I still have it on my phone this time. I haven't like deleted it or anything yet.
Well, and it's X now.
Right. So I saw it.
That's going to date this podcast because I'm sure it's not going to be X forever.
Maybe.
People are going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, remember that weird like 6-month period where it was called X? Elon Musk has wanted multiple things to be called X, but we can get into that later. This isn't the first project of his he's wanted to call X, and everyone's been like, that's a bad idea. And now he just has enough money to do it and not care what other people think. But anyways.
I can respect fulfilling your dream. Everybody's like, how about you don't? And you're like, you know what? I'm gonna.
If it's a bad dream, like, no. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm like, I'm gonna use that next time you got a dream.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, sorry, that's a bad dream. No.
Wake up.
It's a straight up nightmare, bro.
So wait. So if it's called X,
yeah.
If it's not Twitter that has tweets, it's X that has what? Solve for X. What is a tweet? in the X.
If Twitter
is it a?
If Twitter plus tweet, or no, if Twitter.
She's knocking your stuff over.
Frita, no.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Not my Mountain Dew Zero Sugar.
Oh no!
Oh no! Brand placement.
we need to do that. We'll just joke that everything that happens to us is just subversive ad placement.
It reminds me of like in movies and shows and like music videos when it's so like inorganic.
They hold it a specific way.
Let me just. Yeah, this is fine. Like, reminds me of the Gossip Girl episode where they were always sponsored by Vitamin Water, but they have a Vitamin Water party, and there's just vitamin water.
What?
Yeah, in Gossip Girl, episode 1, season 2, the White Party. It's a Vitamin Water party.
Wow.
I love Gossip Girl.
I know you do.
Anyways, moving on. Back to X before we had a product placement. Pepsi. Okay, go for it.
No, yeah. What are they called? Right.
Right.
Are they still tweets? It's just tweets and it's
no, because
X?
it's not Twitter.
I'm on X.
It's got to be like I'm just whatever X sounds like. Just
I need to send a few.
Just this.
Did you see that the other day? The internet was in shambles after a certain went viral the other day. Okay, so I was on X and I saw X, and it was this. I'll just read it to you. I saved it. Okay, so
oh, I've been dying to know what this tweet is because oh man, I'm so excited.
People on Twitter, I just the thing about before. No, I'll say it after. I'm gonna just read this out. I saved it somewhere. Oh, it's right here. It's right here.
God,
okay.
I'm so ready.
So it's not just words. I'll explain it for everybody. I don't think we can pull it up. So this person tweeted, "This is so ableist. What the fuck? Do you know what ableist is?"
Oh, of course I do.
Okay.
We could probably pull it up. Because I feel like tweets are so much more impactful when you get to see it, even if it doesn't matter, you know? I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to see that. I can't even say it right.
I would have to.
Can you email the screenshot?
I'll email the screenshot to us. That's what I'll do. I'll email the screenshot.
I've already
to
waited
us.
like 3 weeks to see it. I can wait a couple more seconds.
Okay, so I'm emailing this over. So
he's emailing the. I can't do it. I can't.
It's the new wave. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's the wrong email.
God.
Too many emails. I have way too many email addresses. I think the old ones just kind of withered away. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's bad.
I have my spam email that I like send all the bad stuff to. When it's like, you have to enter your email to get your test results. It's like, God damn it. I just want to know what spirit animal I am. Like, I want to know what animal I am. Okay? I don't want that kind of stuff where you know it's going to just give you spam.
Well, I've done that twice where I'll start a new email and I'll be like, this is the pure one. This is the one that's not going to get...
This is the one.
This is the one that won't have any spam. It'll be people I know. Yeah. It'll be people I like. It'll be all the good stuff. And then a year later, and I'm like, who is emailing me? Why do I have 5,000 unread emails? And why? Who?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tweet time. Oh my God, I'm so...
Check out this. Okay, so it says, this is so ableist. What the fuck? And it says Spotify has started requiring premium subscriptions to view lyrics.
What? This is so ableist. What the fuck?
So oh, she's got an ear in her username. She's deaf. If you're deaf, are you on Spotify? I can't, like, look, okay, Beethoven was deaf and he made music, but he would sit on the floor and the piano would be on the floor and he'd feel the vibrations.
Okay. Do we know that as
in
fact?
today's day and age, who is deaf? And like, I'm so confused. Like, do you walk around with headphones in? Can you does your head feel the vibrations? And like, if you're first of all so poor that you can't afford Spotify Premium, that's fine, but you have to be deaf and poor enough to not afford Spotify Premium and be using Spotify enough that you would want to follow along with the lyrics while the music you can't hear is passing in the background.
Okay, no, well, now what we need to do is we need to look up how this is gonna... People are gonna call this ableist, what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But because literally anytime you talk about any type of disability, people are like, that's ableist. No.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I want to look up. I'm genuinely curious how deaf people listen to music. Well, I think that'd be important to know. But also, I completely understand where you're coming from. And also, if you can't use Spotify to listen to music...
Just, look up the lyrics online.
That's what I literally was just going to say that. Google it.
What are you... I'm so, okay, they use vibration and feel music. So that's why I was saying Beethoven he would sit on the floor. Normally, pianos are on the stands. And so you sit at the right height. But if you cut the legs off and then put the piano on the floor... Then when you hit a key, the string vibrates and the vibrations move through the whole floor.
Right.
So you can feel the music.
Yeah.
And so if music is loud enough and the vibrations are passing to your body in a certain way, you can basically listen to music with your body.
Right.
You don't need to have headphones in. But the deaf people using Spotify daily... Is there something on Spotify that I'm not so if you're on YouTube and you're watching, if you're deaf and you're watching to us, for instance, and you have subtitles on and you can read, sure. if you had to pay on YouTube for subtitles, that would be kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
Like that would be a little weird. But like Spotify is trying to make money in the age where no one buys music. And like, what are you supposed to pay for? You're going to get ads. That's the main thing. But, and if there is something I am unaware of about this, that's fine. I'll take it all back because I just, how many, let's look at how many deaf people use Spotify.
Or like, how do deaf people use Spotify? I'm so curious. Because I can understand the...
Do deaf people use Spotify?
Oh, for the most by vibrations.
One button click, automatically optimize.
Wow.
So do they have something that they can okay, here's a Reddit post. Why do you have Spotify? So they feel the system, yeah.
Yeah,
So the
that
first
makes
person
sense.
said they have a huge sound system and they can feel it.
Now
we were saying.
I will say that Spotify, it almost goes to the lyrics like a karaoke machine would, where as the lyrics are going, it like guides you through the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do get that. I get that part because if you look up lyrics online, you can't see that. Like you can't,
like
you would have to
it's
know.
Going.
Yeah. But with Spotify, it like has like this lyric, and then as it goes forward, it shows another, and then another, and then another. And you can even, the reason I think they probably have started doing that, I think there's like lyric analysis too on there.
What?
But so I'm curious. So did you know that she was deaf when you screenshotted this? Or did you think it was just some random
I didn't see the
able-bodied
hearing
person?
aid emoji in her name until literally now when we pulled it up.
It wouldn't surprise me if just a very able-bodied normal person who literally has never met a deaf person in their life tweeted that.
Yeah. Well,
it's like just the sign of the times. That's what people do now.
Yeah. Well, the whole sentiment of it being ableist, I think, well, so like, maybe or we could look it up, is if you're being ableist, does that mean that you've like designed something in the world intentionally only thinking about able-bodied people, or unintentionally thinking about disabled people, so you're the bad guy now? Like, what does it mean if someone's like, you're ableist or that's ableist?
So under my interpretation, we can also look it up too, but
tell me what you think. I'll look it
can
up.
be as bad as like literally discriminating against someone and being like, oh, being rude about it or saying mean comments. Or I think it could even be, I mean, it's tough because I want to say it could even be not considering that community when you're making these decisions, or like designing a building with no wheelchair accessibility. Like you only had able-bodied people in mind. That type of thing. I don't know if I would consider that ableist, but I think that it could be seen that way. Like, so I think Spotify, I don't know if Spotify really thought about that. And inherently that might be considered ableist because it's like, you are completely excluding this demographic that exists.
Okay,
so,
well, here's what Merriam-Webster says: discrimination or prejudice against individuals with disabilities.
Okay.
Ableist. And then on Wikipedia it says, ableism is discrimination and social prejudice against people with physical or mental disabilities. Ableism characterizes people as they are defined by their disabilities, and it also classifies disabled people as people who are inferior to non-disabled people. So what?
That one. I read that.
Yeah, so this is ableism.
Yeah, so
101 from accessliving.org, and
the world wasn't built with people with disabilities in mind, and because of that, the world we live in is inherently ableist.
So like, this is where I'm like, with stuff like this and like Twitter energy though, where is the line between people like being like the world, you didn't think of this specific group of people when you did this, and just because you didn't think of them, you're doing this. That's like, can instead of you calling because there is no fucking way in hell that Spotify was like, fuck deaf people, we're gonna make people pay for lyrics.
Well, I think like, so a good analogy that I can think of, just because I was so into makeup for such a long time, is how a lot of makeup brands for a really long time had a very poor foundation shade range. Like, and it could be in a lot of different ways. It could be literally they just didn't offer darker tones, like darker than like, I don't even know, maybe like definitely just not including a lot of people of color.
Yeah.
Or they would have this like huge shade range for like white people, you know, like from, you know, like yellow undertones, pink undertones, blue undertones, in this whole shade range. And then they'd have like 3 tones for the entirety of black people. Like, is that racist? Would you say that is? Because they're not being included. Because I think so.
I mean, I think it becomes a matter of intention. If they are intentionally not doing something because of black people, they like don't want to do that, then yeah, that's fucking racist. But if it's like, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think Spotify was like, we're gonna fuck deaf people, like, we don't care. Like, we don't care about you. And like, if the company's saying like, oh, we don't care about you, then like, yeah, that's racist and that's bad. But I think with companies too, people with the, like, I feel like modern day with companies, I do feel like sometimes they try and do something and then people just like want to pick it apart and they want to like say that everything's wrong with it, or like they didn't do this or whatever. And I think a bunch today, people are totally trying to cater to Hispanics, blacks, like women, everyone now. All the companies now are doing that. I can imagine if Spotify like actually had a serious thing against them of like, what about the deaf people in your demographic? They'd probably be like, what do you need? Like, we're sorry, we didn't think of you. Like,
yeah,
you know, like,
I think it comes down,
which isn't to say that there was nothing racist in history and nothing in history was bad or excluded people, but I think just like the line of intention is like what really matters. Like, like instead of just accusing people or like a company of like they're doing this, you know, it's like, what was their intention? And like,
yeah,
you know,
well, I think that people can be ableist and racist, classist, sexist, whatever you want to say, all the ists. I think that you can absolutely be all of those things without having the intention to be any of them.
Right.
Especially,
well, but then what are you supposed to do?
Well, because I think that we're starting to learn more and more that it's something that was just kind of ingrained into society over time. You know, because we are in a very accepting time for almost everyone, you know, now, but we weren't for a really long time. And I think that it hasn't been ingrained into our subconscious yet to include everyone. It's like only in our conscious mind. And so people can be forgotten about or left behind in a conversation or in a marketing campaign or whatever, because it was like that for so long. You know, mental illness was not talked about. Disabilities, you were made fun of or disregarded or hidden from the world. And then, you know, especially like minorities were completely cast aside in lots of ways. And I think that we're not in a time anymore where people are, well, I would hope most people aren't like consciously being like, we don't talk about them. We don't think about them. We don't look at them, you know, whatever. But I think that because society disregarded these demographics for so long, there are a lot of times where I think they're unintentionally left behind or excluded, or, you know, yeah, like these makeup brands they weren't coming from a place of like, you know, At least I hope they weren't coming from a place of like, yeah, we don't want like people of color shopping at our makeup brand. I doubt that, but it is inherently like there's that subconscious thing that's still there of like, you know, if most of your staff at that makeup company was white or lighter toned, you know, none of you thought about it. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that that's how society was for so long. Like, you didn't cater to those people.
That's true, and that's messed up. But in today's day and age, do you think every company has to cater to everybody? You think that's everybody's job?
I think
do you think Taco Bell needs to worry about, you know, deaf people? They need to make sure they can do everything for deaf people, every minority. They want to make sure they're capturing Arabs in their commercials. They want to capture people from South America, you know, native peoples to the Amazon. They have to make sure everybody's included.
Well, I think we're kind of in that, you know, pendulum swinging type mode. Like I said, it's not ingrained in our subconscious yet to be inclusive to everyone. And so a lot of companies and a lot of people are kind of going completely off the deep end, you know, that forced inclusivity, forced representation, where most people are like, God, this just feels so ingenuine. Like this doesn't feel like actual representation. This feels like you're like pandering. You know, I think we've all kind of felt that when we watch like certain advertisements or, you know, certain things. It kind of reminds me of like, you know, old people trying to like, you know, cater to the youth. They're like, hey kids, you like these memes? These memes are fire. And you're like, oh my God, like, what are you doing? And so I think we're kind of in that place where we're forcing it so much because it was lacking for so long. And I hope that we get to like an equilibrium where it is just ingrained in our subconscious, like as a society, as human beings, to just, I don't want to say not see those things, but you know, just include them as a given, you know? I'm sure it's kind of how, I don't know because I wasn't there, but I'm sure that, you know, when a lot more women started joining the workforce, maybe advertisements for, you know, printers, computers, like office supplies started including women. And I'm sure there were people that were like, ugh, like, like this is weird. And also like it's just a foreign thing. And not in a way of actually being upset that was happening, but just being like, it, you know, maybe it felt forced. I don't know. But now it's such a given that women are in the workforce. There's no question. It's like, yeah, when you picture an office, you picture anyone, you know? I don't know if that's like a really good analogy, but I do feel like we're forcing it a little bit because it wasn't there for so long.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it hopefully will get to a point where it'll get to a point where we just know everyone's inclusive. We don't have to prove it. We don't have to show it all the time. We don't have to, you know, whatever. It's just like, yeah, we're to the point as a society and as just a whole that we're like, yeah, we accept everyone and we cater to everyone, you know, like, and yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think, I don't know. I don't really mind all of the quote unquote forced representation. I think that it can be good. I think that it's a step in the right direction. I think that I would much rather have brands almost like pandering and brands. That sounds so bad because it's like at the end of the day, they're just advertising. They're just trying to make money. So maybe just as like society as a whole, I would much rather have all of this kind of like pandering, almost like we're going a little too far, than, you know, the opposite. Why does it upset? Does it upset you, or how does it make you feel?
It doesn't upset me.
I don't know. I just was asking.
No, I mean there's just this whole thing of like, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who would be like, you're white, you're racist. and you're just naturally racist because you're white and because you live in America and because the whole system's white or whatever. So I think like there's a thin line between like, you know, looking at history and people who were not represented, who needed to be, who were treated anywhere from unfairly to horribly, and like, you know, what are we supposed to do about that? We need to keep trying to fix stuff, and I think people are. I think that's like what we're trying to kind of do right now is like try to fix some stuff and move forward and do better. But I just like, it feels like I have a problem with people telling me like what I am. Like, because like what that chick was saying was like, she wasn't saying like, oh man, this sucks, we should like figure out if they're doing this like for deaf people, like to get deaf people to pay for Spotify. Like the logic just doesn't make sense to me. But like her tone was like, these people are fucked up for doing this. And it's like, that's what people do, is they're like, you're fucked up because of like, you don't even know the way that you're fucked up. I'll tell you, and it's because of this, this, and this. And it's like, sometimes that's appropriate. Most of the time, it's not. And like, to know when and how and to what degree, like, and for example, like, I know I'm not racist, but like, so like just saying I'm white and therefore I am racist because society. It's like, then I can't do anything about that. And like with Spotify, her just being like, they're being ableist. It's like, you know, they can change that technically. Maybe that's a bad analog, but I think that's part of it too, is like, I don't know. It's just her tone was just like basically almost like she's trying to call them out. And it was like, it just felt like she was looking for something to do that to. And I think there's a certain amount of people who do that. They're just trying, this looks kind of like this, so I'm going to say it's this. And they, you know, they don't do it consciously, like, but, you know, some people mad at the world, you know, but I want to make the world a better place. I mean, I don't know. It's just, that part is like, especially in America, there's like, we're tons of different stuff here, tons of different things of everything. And so like, I think that's part of it, is because our history is not like super secure in the way we all feel about it or whatever. And so like, you know, and we have all these other people from all these other cultures. So it's like, we don't have like a singular culture to be catered to, you know? So like when you don't include like Filipinos in your advertising, it's like, you know, what are you, come on, you're leaving the Filipino people high and dry. Like, you know, that's Pacific Islanderist. Didn't you know that? Like, excuse me, like, you didn't think about them? Like, let me introduce you to this whole culture of people that lives here. It's like, are you going to do that for everybody all the time?
Yeah.
Like, where's the, you know, I don't think there's a reasonable way like corporations, advertisers, businesses could cooperate with all of the public to try and like make sure everybody's like not being treated unfairly. So it's like, what does that even look like? But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the whole conversation around oppressed groups is lacking some nuance. I think we're lacking the words to describe a lot of it. And so when people say, you know, white people, or even the generalization of all white people are racist, like, I know what they mean. It's just we kind of lack the words to really describe it. Or like, all men are sexist, you know, that kind of thing. It's like,
people say that
we're lacking the word for what we're actually trying to say.
Yeah.
Because kind of like how there's a difference between, you know, like malevolent racism and systemic racism. You know, those are two different things, but they both are called racist. It's where, you know, systemic is, you know, this group is here because of what our actual racist ancestors did. You know, like over time, the domino effect has made this happen. None of us were there for it, but this is where we are. Scout, stop it. Whereas like actual malevolent racism is like, I hate you because you're this group.
Right.
You know, those are two different things, but they're under the same umbrella of racism, which is kind of a hard thing to say because, yeah, oh my God,
Scout, you're not welcome
oh
right now.
My.
Scout. Okay.
I think they're hungry. We forgot to feed them before we got on.
We didn't feed them before we got on, but yeah.
It's about their dinner time, but, you know, and just like with sexism, because if a woman told me all men were sexist, I'd agree in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the sense that you were probably thinking. Because no one wants to be called those things. Those are mean words. I mean, people who actually are those things are mean. But it's a harsh word for when someone isn't genuinely trying to be that way.
Right.
It's kind of like just how the system, like how, I don't like saying that word, even though I've probably said it a lot already, but, you know, how our past has affected the present. You know, like certain ideas, and I can really only speak for women. I'm not gonna speak on, you know, people of color's experience because I don't actually know what it's like. But I do know that as a woman, there are things that it's so subconscious so much of the time. But there are things that I've experienced, or even I feel about myself, you know, because of just how things have been before. And so I think that all of that to say that, yeah, saying the generalization of all white people are racist, all men are sexist, you know, whatever, it's really not productive. Like, it's not, there's so much more nuance than that. But yeah, it's like almost like we're lacking the words to say that, like what it actually means. And yeah, just calling someone something, like you said, you're like, I don't want people telling me what I am. It's like, yeah, no one wants that, you know. That's not a good way to open up the conversation of the complexity of some of these social issues, you know. Like it's, for me, as someone who, I mean, like, I'm like a white woman. The only hardship I've had is being a woman, you know, like in that way of like a demographic, and not that much, you know. But I think I'm a little bit more quick to try to like be like, I get what you're saying, you know.
What I'm saying, or what the deaf girl's saying?
No, like what the deaf girl's saying. We're saying it's ableist. It's like, you know.
That's what I said when I read the tweet. That's what I was like, you know, I'm sure there's a nugget of truth to this. It's not fucking easy being deaf. Like,
yeah.
But just like, you know, if you listen to that much music, whether you're deaf or not, just buy Spotify. Like, are you feeling the vibrations of ads? Like, you want to, like, what are you doing?
That's true.
That's all I was saying.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, and I think it, as much as it is kind of like a funny tweet, and for what I was saying earlier about, like, I would not be surprised if that was just an able-bodied girl who's never met a deaf person in her life, is because that's something that happens constantly.
That's what people do now.
You know, yeah, even, you know, that's kind of why I was like, I'm not going to speak on the experience of people of color because I haven't been there, but there's plenty of people who would, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we're in that time where it's like, you know, we're that kind of savior complex of like, I'll speak about this even though I know nothing about it. Like, no. And so
point to the guy who knows what he's talking about, the woman, or whoever.
Well, and that's why I'm kind of a little bit more I respect her opinion more because she is deaf.
Well, it sounds like she needs to get a weekend job or something so she can just afford Spotify. Like, I pay for Spotify. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
it's like $10 a month. Like,
yeah,
don't go to McDonald's twice. Like, it's like what? I mean,
I know what she means, but yeah, like I
just don't think it's intentional. I don't think that they were like, and that's like her vibe. Like, I don't know. That's the whole thing about it. And I get the whole, like, it's not intentional that you're, like, doing this thing, but, like, there's no good. It's like, for me, it always just breaks down because it's like, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want people to do? Like, if there's like this grievance, it's like, then what do we need and how do we move forward, you know? But, and so, like, if someone wants to tell me all the reasons why I'm this certain thing that I didn't realize that I was, sure, that's fine. I'll listen and I'll, you know, self-analyze and see what I can do and, like, you know, work with you. But, like, just like there's a difference between that and trying to be productive and trying to be like, here's how you need to treat people. Like, here's how this needs to happen. Like, you didn't notice it, but you were doing this and that's wrong. It's like, oh shit, well, what do you want me to do? But, like, you can't just, like, sit there and yell at me and tell me I'm this and, like, I can't do anything about it. You know?
Well, as a deaf person, I feel like she could have, I mean, it is Twitter, like,
well, you gotta
whatever,
be viral,
but you could have, you know, like, it, I think that her opinion is really valuable on this because this has been her life. And, you know, it, again, just saying you're this thing, you're ableist, you're whatever, that's not how you start a conversation about it. You know, you could genuinely, like, be like, hey, did you guys, like, asking the, like, opening up with a question of, like, did you guys consider the deaf community when you made this decision? You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's a much better way to open this up. And like you said, yeah, I'm sure.
Well, but I think that's the whole thing with Twitter in general, is like, with Twitter and with other social media sites like this, if you, like, whether it's true or not doesn't matter, because you can just say stuff and people respond. And if she said something like that, if she tweeted Spotify back and was like, hey, like, have you considered deaf people? Like, why is this, like, you know, no one her tweet would have not blown up. Spotify might have responded, but, like, who knows what kind of social media they got going on, but her tweet wouldn't have blown up.
Well, and
if someone was politely, like, can you imagine 5,000 people retweeting, like, hey, Spotify, have you considered deaf people in this? It's like, that's not going to happen because people don't care, because that's not dramatic.
People want to be angry and kind of want that, you know, we want things to be simple. We want things to be ableist and not ableist. You know, we want things to, you know, it's hard to, I think it's a lot easier to see things without nuance. And I definitely understand that. There are so many things where I'm like, I don't want, like, I just want to be mad about this thing. Can I just not be mad? And people are like, but think about this. And I'm like, like, you know, I get it, but
well, you're allowed to be mad. Get mad. Like, if something really gets you mad, figure out why you got mad. That's fine, because our emotions are indicators. It's like, why are you getting mad? Like, figure out what that emotion is trying to tell you and what's going on, and that's fine. But, you know, taking that, not trying to feel what that emotion's telling you, and going straight to social media and just, like, being super dramatic. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm not a dramatic person though, so, like, you know, I don't know.
You're not
online.
Well, yeah, not
just
online.
Say random fucking shit for clicks.
No, neither do I. Yeah, well, and I wanted to bring up that she didn't mention in her tweet that she was deaf. The only reason that we really noticed it was probably because we're seeing it on a larger screen and we could see the little hearing aid emoji.
Yeah.
Like, again, it just isn't gonna, like, you know, even saying I'm deaf and I think this is ableist, that is, like, so much more productive than just this is so ableist, what the fuck? Because it's like, yeah, anyone can say that.
Well,
you know?
it's just supposed to be viral, and I just think that honestly, some of the Twitter stuff just, like, undermines real things, because it's like, then it becomes this novelty of being dramatic online, is talking about this, like, you know, just virtue signaling about this thing, and then people are like, oh, they're just virtue signaling, and then the actual thing just gets swept under the rug because, like, you know, it's like, what are you supposed to do at that point?
Yeah, I will say,
you can't win people over if they don't take you seriously, you know?
Yeah, just from, like, a business standpoint, I feel like it's really dumb to make people pay for lyrics. I don't know, that just seems like regardless of ableism and stuff. I just don't really, that was one of the things that I was laughing at so much when you pulled up the tweet. I was like, why the fuck would they do that? That's so dumb.
I never do that. I just listen to the lyrics, and then like the only time I'll look up lyrics is if like if it's like complicated or like kind of like muddy and I can't tell exactly what they're saying. I'll just go look them up, and then I'll be like, oh, they said this here and this there. Be like, okay. But with the one on Spotify, whenever it starts rolling, I'm like, get out of here. Like, I don't look at that. Like, I'm not gonna sit around and read the lyrics while the music is going. But that's just me. I'm sure there's plenty of deaf and able-eared people out there who do that, but you know.
Yeah. Well, and when you're, I think that there is something to be said that, when you are deaf, blind, some sort of, not fully able-bodied, it is unfortunate, but it's true that you do have to invest more money in that, you have to buy certain equipment, you have to buy certain things to make life more accessible to you. And so I think that in a way it's like, well, it's just another thing that, you're going to have to pay for. But at the same time, I think it is like, I already have to, pay all these companies that are making money off of my disability. And now, now I have to pay for fucking Spotify to listen to my music. Like, what the fuck? I think, I'm sure that it could have just been out of like, God, I already have to buy all this shit because people know I'm like a valuable market to sell to. And, I'm not saying that that's necessarily correct or incorrect. I could see how that could get tiring after a while, being like, I already had, like, this is so expensive for me. I remember like my grandma lost her vision and was legally blind, and the equipment we would buy for her was just ridiculously expensive just for her to like be able to live, because she was legally blind, but she could still like read if she had enough magnification, if it was like very lit, like well lit and everything. And so we got her like a big camera tablet thing that would like zoom in really far on stuff, and it's like, damn, that's like so expensive. Like, there's already so much that you have to pay for when, it's like, not only do you have this disability that makes life harder, it's like life is more expensive too. It's just, I'm sure it gets frustrating that like this company that's already probably making so much money is doing that. But again, I don't know if Spotify was, I'm under the impression that maybe Spotify didn't even consider that, that deaf people wouldn't be able to look at lyrics without paying,
Yeah, I mean, that's just like, I don't know. We live in a world right now where there's like, especially in America, there's so many like big companies and all this stuff happening where people just like demand all these things from all these companies. And part of me, like with what little business / money knowledge I have, is like, we're in like this big catch-22 because it's like we have these like big pharmaceutical, medical, whatever companies who like through whatever means have cornered their market, and they can charge $1 million for anything because who else are you going to buy it from? And the regulations are so hard. It's super crazy to try and like start your own business, which is what you're supposed to do, because we're supposed to have a lot more smaller businesses all around that are doing great. But now we've like all the bigger businesses kept buying everybody out, so we've been left with like 3 main businesses that own everything.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the regulations make it so that you can't start a new business and make it feasible and like understand all the paperwork and all the legality and all that. There could be another, like make another company. Like she should start her own company that's free for deaf people with lyrics, like, and so the solution to like this company is like doing this and doing that and whatever. It's like, then like somebody else should make one for those people, or like you make one for people, and fuck those guys, and then make your own business so awesome, or find somebody else who does have a business like that that's so awesome that they get all that business because they're supposed to be there. But it's like so hard to start a business that like people aren't doing it that way anymore. And so like which is to say that we're in sort of this like weird catch-22. I mean, it's not that hard to start a business, but like we just keep going to these big companies that like own everything, but now we're like trying to tell them what to do. It's like Walmart is there. It's always there. It's so ingrained in all of us that instead of like trying to figure out how to not go to Walmart and support local and find another business or make another business to do what they do, we just try to tell them what to do because we want them to do it differently, And so like in a free and open market where anybody of any color or ability is allowed to do anything and any kind of business they want, things would self-sort a lot easier, but there's too many regulations. So it's like, now it's like, yeah, what do we do? Just yell at them?
Well,
like, hey, change.
I'd argue that the free and open market is how we got here in the first place.
No, it's not at all. Free and open market, the freer the better. To charge somebody, you're not allowed in Atlanta, you're not allowed to sell stuff on the street. You know what that means? Like, that's like a regulation. I was trying to buy some stuff from this guy when I was in Atlanta. I was trying to buy this necklace, and we had to like arrange to meet it elsewhere because the cops were around stopping people from selling things in the street. Get the fuck out of my business and let this guy sell me his cool shit that he made. It's not gonna get taxed. You can go fuck off, and everyone should be able to sell shit to other people for whatever price they want. Because if we did that, things would self-sort. Money would stay in local communities. The more regulations is what got us here. England had a period where I think it was the laissez-faire period. Almost everything was legal, and it was like the most prosperous time they ever had, because when you make certain things that like illegal to do, like selling things in the street to people, then what do? You have to go to Walmart and get a 50-cent an hour job because you can't sell your own stuff, you can't do your own thing, you can't go make your own money. Like, well,
I mainly meant that the free and open market is what allowed Walmart to become this insanely huge.
It's partially, yeah. And so like there's nothing wrong with that. If they do a great job and they provide people with what they want, it's just like Amazon. It's like Amazon sucks. I hate Amazon, but nobody wants to give up 2-day 50-minute shipping or whatever it is. Like, get it to my house in 10 seconds or I'm getting my money back. Like, and like, so you can't complain about Amazon and still shop at Amazon and be like, what else am I supposed to do? Like,
well, what, like, I mean,
because that's the catch-22. Amazon exists, fuck it, let them exist. Walmart exists, if you want to shop there. But like, what happened is other companies can't start and do what they do at the same price that they have, and it's also regulations holding people back from starting new businesses. So are you saying it'd be better if there were more regulations?
Well, I'm curious what regulations, because I know what I know what you're talking about. But, I think that this is another topic where there's a lot of nuance, where it's like, I do agree with what you're saying in the way of it is pretty hard to start a new business, and there is a lot of regulations, a lot of hoops to jump through, licensing, all of those things. And yeah, you can't just sell stuff on the street a lot of the time.
Let me take the risk. If it kills me, that's my fault. I can't sue anybody,
Well, yeah, but the large corporations that the open market allowed to happen, because there's a lack of regulation on them. That's kind of the ironic part, is that there's regulation on the small guy, mainly.
Well, but they designed it that way. That's what they did. Who
designed it that way?
The medical companies, the pharmaceutical companies, large enterprises. They go to Congress and they say, "Hey, you want a fucking $1 billion?" And they're like, "Sure, yeah." Like, and then they get a bill passed that says they can do whatever they want, and it's super hard to start another bank. It's super hard to start another, this or that. Like, you can't do it. You can't do any of these other options. So like the way that I basically understand it, and it could be completely wrong, but in a free and open market, places like Walmart got popular because they provided really low prices and probably low quality, but low prices to people. And then what happens is when the business gets so good, then you start opening other locations. And so when you can do things like with wholesale, when you can do more in bulk, the price for each one gets cheaper.
Yeah.
And so smaller companies can't do as much bulk like that up front and get those prices that the other people would get because they are only getting a few. And so like those prices that get chipped along the way help to build even bigger. And so like there's basically you get to this point where they become so big that they basically just the them being big isn't necessarily the problem, because what happens is if you do, as far as legally with business, if you do it one way, you have to do it that way with everybody. So like how do you if you let there's a fine nuance between voting with your dollar, not being able to open a new business, like that type of thing. Like if everybody stopped going to Walmart for a week, like what, like if we all as a society agreed not to go to Walmart, Amazon, whatever, if we all agreed to do that, we could, all of America, we could cut off those businesses. Fuck Walmart. What do you think's really going to happen when nobody shops there anymore? And like you could argue, sure, like, well, but if you argue it's essential, then it's like, well, then is it a free enterprise at that point? What are you considering Walmart? Like, if it should be this thing now, like it's its own business, let it be its own business. The only problem that happens is when those businesses get a hold of legislation, which they've done, and so then they make it almost impossible for there to be competition. So now they're permanently in power. So like you can't, because those basically the government needs to be as small as possible and stay out of everything as much as possible, because if you have a free and open market, then you could convince people not to go to Walmart and say, hey, if we all don't go there, they're going to die. Let them die. Cut them off and let them die. The only problem is that like we would all need to coordinate, and we all can't coordinate as well as Walmart can coordinate with the U.S. government or whatever the fuck happens with pharmaceutical companies and like the Sackler family and stuff like that. But if you regulate, then like you said, the only person that it really impacts is the little guy. And it's the same thing with like minimum wage. It's like, if they're like, hey, the minimum wage is $200 an hour, Walmart's like, fuck yeah, like I'm not going to have any competition. Joe Schmo down the street's not going to start a company and be able to pay people that much. I can. It's like nothing for me to go a little bit higher. Amazon's like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like we can expand off of this for sure. And then everybody's just going to live in little Amazon cubicles and buy Amazon and, you know, shop at Walmart for your groceries and whatever. And we're going to own the world. It's like the more regulations, the more requirements you put on everybody, the less you actually get people doing business with each other.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's really bad, you know? And that's like what we were talking about with AI. That's like, they're trying to regulate AI. They're like, oh no, it's so dangerous. Please regulate us. Like we want to be regulated so bad. It's just going to destroy the whole world. It's like, basically, we want to be the only ones who can make AI, because if we regulate it so that people in their basement can't create a language model and sell it to people, then there can be no competition.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to... Lots of information, and Freya is also being so violently snuggly. And I wanted to make sure...
Well, they're still hungry. Here.
Yeah.
If you want to see how long we've been going.
She stepped on the keyboard, and so I just wanted to make sure everything was still going.
Frita.
Okay, we're good.
We're still recording.
Yeah, I do have some... I don't know if my thoughts... Frita? I don't know if my thoughts on all of this are, you know, I'm sure they're not, you know, completely correct or well thought out or whatever. But I don't know. I do think that, kind of like how I said, the free market is how we got here in the first place, because they weren't regulated. But I don't know if there's a solution. I think it's kind of like how we've talked about with, you know, different economic structures, you know, like capitalism, socialism, communism, you know, whatever. None of them, like, all of them will fail in a certain way, you know.
Yeah. Well, people fail.
People
That's the
fail,
thing.
yeah. And unless you are in a small community, none of these systems are going to work. They're all something is going to happen. Like it just doesn't matter. You know, if it's not a confined like commune basically. And so it is tough. I don't know if I agree that, you know, the government needs to be as small as possible. I don't know if I agree that it needs to be big either. This is one of those things that I have a hard time with. Just because
It's easy. All you say is no regulations, as small a government as possible. That's the right answer.
I don't believe that, though.
It's completely right. Let everybody do whatever they want.
Okay.
And don't regulate anybody. I should be able to sell medical equipment to people.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, I should. What the fuck?
No, you shouldn't.
Why?
Because, I mean, medical equipment.
Yeah.
You need to make sure it's like up to, oh my God.
Yeah, like what are you talking? You saying I wouldn't know how to sell the right medical equipment to people?
I mean, I don't know if I would trust your medical equipment without
Okay, then
a
don't buy it
license.
from me.
Okay, well.
And go to the guy you trust.
I mean, I think I'm just a little bit more worried about like the safety of people.
Right, but that's how they get you. They're like, oh, it's not safe. It's not safe for everybody. We need to protect everyone. And meanwhile, they're jerking off pharmaceutical companies in the back so they can sell everybody as much drugs as they want. Like, that's what's happening. Oh, it's not safe. It's not safe for anybody else to sell pharmaceutical drugs. It's not safe for anybody but us. We can sell them to everybody because we know how to make them. And we're going to charge everybody $500 for an ounce of insulin.
That is a different thing. There was a guy who has the patent for insulin.
What do you mean?
I don't want to like fully speak on it because I don't know everything about it. But.
Okay, well, we'll drop the insulin thing.
Okay.
So you don't think it should be big and you don't think it should be small.
I'm saying that I don't know.
You think it should be medium sized? We should have like a mid-sized government.
A mid government.
Just a middle size.
Just a mid society.
A husky government.
No, I don't think that I have a hard time with this being very decisive about it. The only thing I could think of for this conversation and the conversation we just had before this is like my Enneagram type is the 6 and it's called the devil's advocate. Because it's like being in the middle on almost everything. And not to say that I'm not passionate about a lot of stuff, but I think that things that have extreme nuance, I have a hard time being like, this is the right thing to do, especially with the economy, because it's just like,
well, it takes a lot of work, and I'm not 100% set on my idea. It's like if I've looked into it a decent amount for certain things, which is why I feel like I want to talk about it and feel like there's stuff that makes sense to me. So if someone could demonstrably show me that like this is the right thing to do, this is what's happening, this is like, whatever, then yeah, I'd be totally down to change my mind. But it just seems to me, I'll say it this way, from stuff that I've seen, looked into, whatever, it just seems to me that people right now are mad at these big companies because they have like all our money basically. The people are mad because they're like, these companies are so big and all of like this vast amount of wealth is just like, locked up in these companies, right? That's like the main argument. And then they're like, we should redisperse that wealth to people. That's like the big argument. And so like, I think when you look at that, it just seems that there's a combination of things that got us there. And having a free and open market is like, the best way to go, because it puts the decision in the consumer's hands. You have to know what the best one is, but you also get to pick. And right now, we don't have a lot of options for a lot of different stuff. Like it's becoming more and more rare that like hey, there's these people in our community, in our city where we live, and they do this thing and it's really good, and they're like prices are great and they're really cool. It's a local business, whatever. It's like, oh, what do you use? Apple or Samsung? Like there's no other phones to be had. Like there's not an American phone company that's like the little guy that's like, and not only that, but like Cricket piggybacks off AT&T. Like it's like it all goes down to this one thing. And so like whether or not, I think idealistically, whether or not like the free market created that, I think basically, okay, the side of what went wrong, the way I see it, which who am I? I don't know if I matter, but the way I see it is that there's basically these people got a bunch of money because they did really good business. Because like you don't get to be Walmart without doing business on some level.
A long time ago,
Walmarts are just not like, they cost money, they take money, they make money. Like, companies that are that successful, they did something right.
Oh yeah.
And usually with business, and they sold stuff to people and everybody ate it up. And so it's like that when you get to that level though, and you have that much money and then you start to have that much influence, I just feel like there's things that have happened, like, like bailing out the banks. It's like, let the banks die. Please let the banks die. Because like if you bail somebody out like that in 2008 or whatever with the financial crisis, it's like, don't bail them out. Let them fail. If you lose, you lose. Sorry, you lost. You went into a free market, you lost. That's what happens. If you go into the free market and you win, awesome. And I think that what happened is all these people who started to have all this insane amount of money were like, well, let's just like make it so we can't lose now. And so like that's what they've done. They've made it so like they can't lose, nobody else can play. It's kind of like how it's moving. Do
you agree that those companies starting in a free market is what got them here in the first place?
There's nothing wrong with succeeding in a free market.
Right, but what if we went back to how, because our market was a lot more free, like when Walmart, Coca-Cola, like all these companies were starting.
Right.
But who's to say if we didn't do that again, it would just happen again?
Well, but I was about to say the disparity between those two things, where it's like, one, Amazon and Walmart have all of the money, and then two, things have happened to make it so that big companies can't lose and nobody else can play, is like, we're not taught about financial education. Like I had to learn a ton about financial education and like looking into business, sales, certain stuff like that. And so like people are out here learning George Washington's birthday and memorizing it in high school or whatever. And like I think the basics of economic and like we're trained to be 9-to-5ers at these businesses. That's what we're trained for. We're not trained to understand how they got that way, how money works, how investments work, how business works, how to sell, like how sales works. We're not told any of that stuff. And then we're expected to go into the world where all that stuff is king. And we only are trained on how to be there for 8 hours. And so it's like, I just think the education system is like the linchpin, like it is like the whole faulty part about all this, because it's like that's the kicker, is like this stuff's happening, the nuance of like how free a market should be and how regulated it should be. Well, maybe we could figure that out if we all knew more about what was happening, and we don't.
Yeah. There were a couple things that I've been thinking about this whole time. I think why I have a hard time. I don't think I have a hard time with how I feel about all of this. I think I have a hard time saying it.
Well, then just don't hold back. Tell me what you think.
Well, I think that there's a lot more to Walmart becoming. We're just going to use Walmart for all these companies. Just they all can be interchanged for Walmart. I think there is much more to Walmart's success than them having enough money to pass regulations. I think there's far more issues than just people not being able to start businesses. It's the fact that Walmart has enough money to come into small towns and build a Walmart and suffocate every other business in that town, and they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's how they got so big. That's going to happen whether or not there's regulations. Like, that part of it, it doesn't matter whether it's the Wild West. It doesn't matter if we have laws stopping everything. The only law that would stop it is stopping them from building there, which that isn't going to happen, and that isn't right. You know,
Right.
But in a free market like that, the biggest fish is going to eat the rest. That's how it goes. That's always how it goes.
Right.
And the biggest fish is going to buy the rest of the fish. They're going to buy the whole fucking ocean, you know? And so I don't think that a free market is going to make it any better. I don't think it could make it any worse either. But I also, you know, I think it's important to address that we buy groceries at Walmart. And why do we do that?
It's for the prices. It's because it's cheap.
And
But
yeah, so we
here's
don't
the
have
thing.
a, like, in a way, I don't want to be completely helpless. Like, we do have free will, but because of where we are and how much money we make and everything, we don't have a choice.
Well, that's part of it.
Most of America doesn't have a choice, and I don't think that, I mean, how much is a free market going to help that? Because
it's gonna be insane. So that's like part of the whole thing with like minimum wage too, is like, again, Walmart can afford to pay people minimum wage. And like, I don't understand the nuances of inflation or, you know, all of those types of things. And, you know, I will say for the record too, like, I don't think there should be absolutely zero regulation on anything ever. Like, you know, because that's you know, tough to be that safe by yourself all the time. Like, there should be an amount of safety regulations where people aren't at risk. But that's the thing, is like, I think it's just inevitable that people are going to take advantage of any regulation once you start using it, you know, because they're like, well, you know, we should regulate this too, though, don't you think? And I think that saying that Walmart coming in and putting everybody else out of business is like, Walmart came up as the economic decline started happening, because I think it was like around the 60s, post World War II, was like one of the, as far as America as a whole, was one of the more economically fluid times where it was a lot better. And since then, you know, people joke about the boomers and like what they paid for a house and that type of thing, and it's like this direct correlation and between like places like Walmart taking off, and then what happens is, I don't know exactly how it works, but what happens is like minimum wage will raise, then everything else raises, then minimum wage raises, then everything else raises, then minimum wage. So like what happens is we have this arbitrarily, you know, boiling temperature of the price of everything. And then whether this is designed or not, the big corporations who can afford that are the only ones who can keep up.
Yeah.
But if you kept it low and like it's, I don't know exactly how it works, you know, I might be getting in over my head, but if you had, I think the interconnection of the world is part of it too, because the reason Walmarts could come to a town and do all this, because they do have the resources to like ship other things in that are more interesting, or different types of food or stuff that your local community normally wouldn't have or whatever. But the fact that a company could come in, build something, set it up, and then charge lower than everybody else in that town is crazy. But you should be able to like, I think the resource availability is a huge one, and shipping and that type of thing, as I'm thinking about it right now. I think that probably plays a huge part into it. But ideally you should be able to have a Walmart in your town, and then some guy should be able to be like, well, I can beat all their prices on these vegetables. And then people hopefully would be like, oh, we get our vegetables here, they're great, and they're cheaper than Walmart. He should be able to just set up and say like, you know, within reason, like, yeah, these are my vegetables. Like,
well, that could just never happen though, because like, and again, we shop at Walmart. I willingly know these things, and we shop there. So I'm not trying to come from a high and mighty place of I don't do that, and like I think that there's a whole other facet of it of they pay for goods from exploited people.
Well, that's
and
part
so
of it too. Fuck
that's
those
how
guys.
they can charge so cheap. And I wanted to bring up, because again, there's so many different things that go into this. I think that a huge part is boomers and Gen X, you know, like, and again, not that they didn't know that this was going to happen, and they didn't consciously, they're not evil people, you know. But I saw a really great quote that was basically like, I'm going to botch it, but basically that they built the, you know, they built the, let's say, empire. They built the financial empire from the ground up, and they took the ladder with them. Because this whole wealth disparity thing that we're experiencing with big corporations like Walmart and stuff, where the CEOs and everything are making so much money, is a pretty new thing. Like, where they are making like
there were old kings who
of
taxed
the
people
money.
and took all the money in the kingdom.
In America.
No, I'm just saying that's not a
It's not
new idea.
I'm not saying
that
it's a
one person
new
has all the
idea.
money in a culture.
I'm saying that it's a new mentality that we started having here, because for a long time it felt like things were very united, and it was like, we want America as a whole to be better. You know, we want, because we went through so much trauma together. We went through these horrible wars and like just all this terrible shit. And then, you know, I don't think that these older generations did it on purpose. But
well, I was going to also say that
happened.
I think part of it, as we're talking and as I'm thinking about all of it, I think a big part is also, like you said, technology, and like I was saying, shipping, and like those two things getting better and faster, and like, you know, we can get imported produce from places, and like, you know, like just whatever. And so like, you know, exploiting people is like so fucked up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we didn't know. Us consumers didn't know. We're just living our lives here, and we're like, find out about this stuff, we're just like horrified. And so it's like, I think that's also an analog for like the technology. It's like, we've developed these technologies that allow for companies like this to have more access to resources and do all this stuff. And I think we might not be educated on all the right stuff anyway, but also like as human beings and as like a global community, it's like we probably just have no idea what we're doing as far as like we're not allowing, but just like, you know, we got fire, we got computers, we got stuff, we got dangerous, crazy new technology that's like, you know, changing the world so fast that we can't even like keep up, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to figure out how to handle a globalized world, you know, like where we are all interconnected. We can, like, the fact that we can eat fruits that would never grow here, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm talking in the United States, not just Colorado, but like,
oh yeah,
in the entirety of the United States. Like, I don't think this might sound really dumb, but I don't think mangoes grow here. Let's say hypothetically,
Let-
mangoes don't
Okay.
grow here. Like, at any other time, I would never get to eat a mango in my whole life unless I was rich enough to travel the world, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's one facet of it. We can get literally any food we want. We can get any product we want. We're wanting to go and visit that Japanese market that's here, where it's all products directly imported from Japan.
Well, see, that's what I want. I don't want Walmart and whoever grabbing stuff from lesser down people around the world. I don't know how that shop works, but
who knows if all that stuff is just imported from Japanese Walmart?
well, but that's what
Like-
that's what I was
like
about to
Japan's
say. I
version.
was like, can you imagine a global society, free open market society, where people from a specific culture could export their goods that they made if they want, and they would make money on it, and people throughout the rest of the world could buy it, and then they would, you know, buy it, and we could open up this whole thing where like these like top people who are like really good at it or whatever, just like, you know, aren't controlling everything. It could be individuals like doing all this stuff,
But those individuals are going to get successful and then be power hungry and then get a monopoly on everything again.
Well, the thing about it is competition. If you have good competition, then like if you have to have competition because the competition keeps you honest.
I mean, but they did, and they
but they didn't. That's the thing is they started cutting people out. They started getting so big that you buy out all the other companies.
That's what I'm saying is you if you can buy out your competition, then competition doesn't even matter anymore.
Well, I think okay, for I get what you're saying when it's like so you're saying we did everything right and now it's wrong. You're saying the free and open market society. Are you saying free and open market society is just bad? Businesses should have limits on how much money they can make.
No, I'm saying that I think why I've had such a hard time answering this is because it's never been right.
No, but I'm just saying I think it's better if you have a free and open market where people can do, just about anything they want. Because, like, if we started a new phone company, it wouldn't go over well. And, like, I think that, like, with the fruit is a great example. Wasn't it Guatemala? Didn't the CIA get involved in Guatemala where they grew bananas?
Where didn't they get involved? Let's be honest.
But that's what I'm saying. They got involved. And they, like, I think there was this fruit company, and they went down to Guatemala, and, like, they basically were like, we need your land to grow bananas and ship them back to the United States. And Guatemala was like, fuck off. And the CIA was like, no, they're going to do it. And then that's what happened. And then that's and that's what I'm talking about is like, I don't think it's just that, oh, Walmart just happened to be great at what they did. Oh, they just happened to be as good as what they were at everything. And like, oh, wow, isn't it spectacular that everything just, these few companies just got so big and just started controlling everything to such a degree. Like, it's like, yeah, with the competition, like, I'm just saying you need a free market as much as possible within safe reason, and you need to have competition. Because,
well, but what is safe reason? Because you selling medical equipment, I don't know if that's within safe reason.
Well, the one of the big things was like the Tylenol killer in the 80s. You know about that? Well, that's why we have safety seals on everything now. Yeah. So you know if it was tampered with because that guy was crazy and he was killing people. Okay. And so like
and we've had a lot of like septic
but that's where it falls off.
Equipment.
That's where it falls off because then there's like if you regulate, then someone's going to use that. And I think part of it too is that we always get at this point with our conversations because I'm like, you know what? People just suck dick. That's what it is. Well, people fucking suck. Can I bring up... People in government want to serve themselves. They'll get bought out. Companies want to serve themselves. They want to be the only one alive. People want all the rich people's money because they only care about... Everybody, stop caring about yourself so much. You suck. You fucking suck. Everybody out there, shut the fuck up. Everybody fucking sucks. You're only thinking about yourself.
I wanted to bring up a point because you mentioned the CIA with the bananas. First of all, I love
the CIA did the bananas in Guatemala.
I love talking about the CIA. Oh man. But this might be a logical fallacy. I don't know. But I do want to talk about how so the CIA has little to no regulation.
Yeah.
How has that gone over?
The CIA shouldn't exist.
But in a free market, anything can exist.
The CIA is not free market. It's part of the government. Get rid of the CIA.
They kind of are.
Fuck them. Get them out of here. I don't want them.
Well, then what do you...
Get the FBI out of here. Get the CIA out of here. I want a president. I want one person from every state. One president. One person from every state. One person in the what is it? The Senate? No. We need a Senate, a Congress, and a president.
That's literally the government right now.
What's the big judge court that everyone goes to? The Supreme Court. We need those guys.
What's the big main court?
Fuck everybody else. Get the government out of here. Fuck them. Kill them. Kill all of them.
Kill them. Oh my goodness.
Get them out of here.
Whoa.
That's the only way they'll learn. They can't appoint anybody new if they're gone.
Do you get what I'm saying though? That like without any regulation, like I mean. So getting rid of the CIA would inherently mean more regulation.
Here's what happens. Here's what happens though, is because like basically from what I understand, America was supposed to be the place where you couldn't do this. That was like supposed to be the thing. The king can't just be the king and say that he rules everybody, right? Like you can't just say that you're like some hotshot who matters and has all the money, has all the whatever. Like people can open their own businesses, they can do their own shit, and we vote on everything. That was like supposed to be the point. And now it's gotten to like the most controlling fucking ecosystem of corporations and government like ever known. Like the amount of information, the amount of control, the amount of power, the amount of nuclear warfare, everything that the United States controls around the world is fucked up.
Well,
like they're the most parasitic and ruling, controlling entity in fucking human history.
well,
They're out of control.
I would argue that I don't think they're the most controlling.
Who is more controlling than the United States government?
Well, what I wanted to say is
My ex? Like who?
I think that the you're making me fuck, what was I gonna say? Don't say anything.
I didn't mean kill him. I'm not gonna kill the CIA. Don't send anybody.
Oh God.
It was a metaphor.
No, okay.
Disband.
Stop! I need to think of what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So I think that with America, the problem, the one problem, is
America, the problem.
is that we're like, so it is an extremely controlling place, but we insist that we are the freest nation.
We used to be
No,
when it started.
It's extremely manipulative. And everyone has Stockholm syndrome here. Even I do, because I get extremely patriotic for no reason when someone's like, I hate America. I'm like, what did you just say? Eagle, caca! Like, we're all here. I mean, come on, anyways, what I'm trying to say is,
did you want me to caca too? Or should I
I'm
caca
just saying,
back?
like, you get patriotic,
well, I get patriotic about what America was supposed to be.
Well, we're not that.
We
and
had
haven't been
slaves.
for a
We had
long
slavery.
time.
We have a bad
Yeah,
history.
we literally.
We have a part
Yeah.
of our country that is torn, and it's never been perfect.
Yeah.
And I just think that the way they designed the government to be as small as possible, because it doesn't matter, because that's like what governments and people around the world were doing is like, we're in charge, you gotta listen or we're gonna kill you. That's like the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I just want to finish the thought of, I think the reason why it's so messed up and it seems so sinister is because we're constantly being told we're so free, and we're constantly ignoring that we're not. I was just talking to my parents about this, how it's like, it's insane that, because we were talking about some like questionable stuff. There were a couple buzzwords in there. The CIA was one of them. I love talking about them. But that we know that we're being listened to. Like the minute you say a couple buzzwords, someone or some AI is listening to your conversation at that point.
Sure.
And even if they're not, a company is to figure out what to advertise to you. And so I think it's more so this really manipulative, like, we're the land of the free and the home of the brave, but also we are the most controlling. And so it does feel, well, and again, I don't know if we're definitely, I mean, there are places that are worse right now than us. But it's in ours is in a much more manipulative way of like, let me distract you with all of these things so you don't actually see how messed up this system is, or how messed up Hollywood is, how messed up our government is, how messed up these corporations are, whatever.
There goes the Gremlin Cam.
No. Okay. Well, we'll finish up in a little bit, but mainly, there's a lot of countries that are much more, well, not a lot, because we're actually pretty low on the freedom scale. But there are quite a few countries where there's a lot more regulation, but it does feel like that is much more of the societal expectation. Like I was telling you about how, our thing is like land of the free, home of the brave, whatever. Canada's is like it. For ours is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's one of our big things.
Yeah.
Canada's is like How would I look that up?
I don't know.
Canada's version of
Canada's motto? I don't know.
Canada's version of
Canada's motto?
like Canada's
Where you go with this?
no, because theirs is Canada's version. No.
Says
No, stop it.
Ad Marie, which is from sea to sea.
No. Can
Is
you
that the
look up,
same as the United States?
Can you look up Canada's version of
Canada's version of Target or Walmart? It says the FBI.
Land of the Free. No, not that. Life, Liberty, and Pursuit of Happiness.
Of Canada's version of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
So theirs is peace, order, and good government. And that's honest. That's honest. Because, like, for us, liberty, life, are you kidding me? Like, we literally just, the government just decided that, I think, what was it? That food isn't a human right? Like, at the United Nations something, we were the only country that voted against food being a human right. That might be totally botched, but we did.
Okay.
And so, mainly what I'm saying is that we're lying. That is not our main thing. Whereas with Canada, I'd say that's pretty honest. Peace, order, and good government. Those are all things that Canada has lived up to.
I don't know about that.
What do you
if
mean?
we were gonna get into politics, but
No, I just mean that they're not over here trying to, like, I mean, I'm not like pro Canada or anything, or even anti Canada, but I do think it's interesting that our quote unquote mottos are so different, and how ours is like,
ours is better. Canada can fucking suck it.
oh my god, why are you in such a feisty mood?
Because I think that a lot of times I'm not saying this happened to you. I first of all said all those things. I said our government's controlling, manipulative now. And I think that it's gone astray. And I think that the ideals that it was set up upon, like, we led the world in a lot of idealistic things, and people tried to be like us and catch up to us, and like there was an age, so like basically all I'm trying to get to is that the idea of what America was founded on, not what it was, not what it is now, but the idea that anybody of any color, of any race, of any religion should be able to practice their religion. They should be able to be free and do whatever they want for work, and they should be able to make their own life and pursue whatever version of happiness that is for them. That is like what you would, that's like the best thing we could all shoot for.
Yeah.
Because
are you saying that was the mission, or that was one of the goals?
Yeah, that was the goal, because I think like what do you think America was?
Well,
you think there was a seed for a fucking communist thing?
No,
that was,
what I'm
like,
saying is it wasn't like, again, we're circling back to inclusivity. It was not that inclusive.
That was, yeah, I'm saying it's not what it was. I think that
but
those
vision,
guys,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, those guys were fucking fucked up. There's people are going to look at us now in 50, 100 years and be like, those fucking idiots. Like, they didn't get it. Like, sorry. Like, they didn't fucking get it. And we still don't fucking get it. Everybody's not going to get it. And I think that's part of it. But I think that what those guys tried to envision is like people could come here and be themselves. And like, I don't know how they separated it in their mind. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, they had slaves. Was it fucked up? Yeah. But if the idea for our country is you can be anybody, you can look like anything, you can practice whatever religion you want, and you can make your own living for yourself and live your life the way you want, it's like, that's what we need. And I don't think that regulating everything into the ground is going to do it. And I think that the technology is the biggest thing right now, because we're getting into this technocratic society where all of the governments are going to have all this technology that they can, like, they're going to be like manipulative, narcissistic tyrant overlords who are like, you broke the law at this time and date because your phone and your fridge and your oven saw you do it. Like, and they're going to use all that against us. Like, the technology,
your oven.
like, we didn't have a chance to like try and like society's moving too fast with the technology. And I think like shipping is a huge one. Shipping and getting faster freight and doing all that is a huge one. But I think that we're in a place now where Well, and I was gonna say the other thing is I'm not worried about it because, like, my reality is my responsibility. I can only control myself, so I just keep trying to do that as much as possible. And whatever's best for the world, that's what I want. But I think that, if you look back through history, the like model of what we're doing isn't different. Like as far as government being a certain way, a certain size, a certain amount of whatever, and then people being like, you know what? No, we're gonna like revolt. We're gonna do what like it'll if it gets that bad, then like yeah, like let's wipe it all away and start over. Like that's what humans do. If it gets that bad, and like hopefully we don't get there, but
we're gonna get there. We always get there. That's my
well, it could.
I think that's I mean, kind of like how I've gone back to a couple times. That's why I don't even know if I have a definitive opinion, because I know that this is just what happens. Like no matter how the system is.
I think that's what they were trying to do. Like regardless of all the things they did wrong, I just think that's what America like basically. They were trying to like make it as hard as possible for that to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were radicals of the time. They were considered insane. They knew that if they somehow failed to create America and they were sent back to England, that they would be executed.
Oh yeah,
because they were committing horrible treason. Like it was you were considered like a I don't want to say terrorist at the time, because that's not true. You were just you were committing a huge crime by resisting the British government. And so I know that they could see how broken the system was, and they knew that the only way to stop it was to be as radical as possible. And I think that in a way they succeeded. But yeah, just unfortunately I think that America is just kind of a large scale Walmart, where it's like, no matter what, if you get big and you are the superpower, like you turn evil. It's like you either die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain.
Well, and isn't that like what China's gonna do next?
It's just how it works.
China's gonna take over. U.S. is gonna fall off. China's gonna be the next big thing, and they're just gonna do it too. It's like that's what England was doing. Like whoever was doing it before, Rome. Like whoever's like the biggest, baddest, and kicking ass. Like we're still like natural in that way, where it's like at the end of the day, it's still nature.
People get a power trip, no matter who you are.
Can you make sure she doesn't mess anything up?
Hey,
we're about to feed you, Freya. You won't die, I promise.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in older times, in the past, it was kind of like the only way to get bigger was to conquer other places, and that meant
and assimilate them.
It meant converting people to your religion, torturing people, raping people, killing people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a matter of, oh well, we're not gonna be like that. It was like that was literally the only way to get bigger, at the time. And so it's like, as of right now, it's like, I know that once you get big enough, some of these things are kind of unavoidable. Not saying that they're actually unavoidable. Like, you as a person have every right to be like, that's wrong. I don't want to do that. I don't want to exploit people or whatever. But it's just kind of how things happen is, and I think that it's hard not to have that kind of defeatist mindset for me, of knowing all of that and knowing that it's inevitable. No country gets this big without exploiting people. No company gets that big without exploiting people. It's part of it, And I'm grateful to be here. I should say that. I'm not like a huge, like, I'm not like, I just want to move to Europe where it's better. I don't think it's better. I have my feelings about Europe.
That's another podcast.
No, I am grateful to be here. I know that I'm lucky to be here. And, I think we're lucky to have the time, energy, and resources to even question our government. Because a lot of the time, people don't even, have the opportunity
Well, that's a point for America.
And so I am grateful that, not only do I have the resources and time to question, but I also have the authority to. Even though we do lack some freedom of speech in ways, like I can say whatever I want. Unless it's threatening, like the president's safety or something. Like, for the most part, I have every right to have an opinion about the government, about the president, about, all these things. Like, the market, these corporations, it is, there are things to be grateful for, and there are things that I really do appreciate and love about America. I'm not denying any of those things. So yeah, I guess, just I'm grateful that there is space in this country to critique, because in a lot there are not.
Fuck this country. I don't mean that, but I am allowed to say that.
Fuck this country, and also I love this country. Like, it's, it is kind of that weird dichotomy where it is a complex relationship. I have a very complex relationship with this country. I think in a lot of ways I love it, in a lot of ways I despise it. Just like, how any healthy, that's how opinions should be. You should be able to love and hate something at the same time, and really
allowed
explore
their own
it.
opinion.
Yeah.
And between the cats losing their minds, and I also have to use the bathroom really bad, and our podcast is about, I think, over the time we normally go anyway. Yeah. So all of that to say, just to tie a bow on this, I think that I think there's a chance that we could, I don't know how. I'll say that. I just think, and I'm hopeful and positive that we could turn this around, and not even around, but we could keep developing, and we could make this a great place. Mm-hmm. We could make the whole world a great place.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
I think we're
closer than ever.
We don't have to be destroyed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope we're not. Yeah. I think we could fix it. I don't know how, but I have ideas. So
yeah, we're closer. I'd like to believe we're closer than ever to a really prosperous time.
For everybody.
Yeah, for everyone.
Everybody.
Inclusivity, woo! Full circle.
See, I'm inclusive. See that?
Yeah.
I am inclusive.
But I just wanted to point out, I think it's funny that when we talked about the things that I did not want to talk about on this podcast, what were the two things I said?
Race and politics.
Yeah. Yeah, and what did we talk about today?
Ableism in America.
We talked about race and politics.
Oh yeah, we did. We did talk about that.
We actually talked about exactly. Race. When you mentioned
politics.
When we both mentioned race, I was like, God damn it! I told him I didn't want to talk about this, and then we got into politics. I was like, oh no.
Well, technically, it was a bit more economics than politics, but how intertwined they are, and how that's bad. How I think that's bad.
They are very intertwined
and controlled. Well, anyways, what do you guys think? Email us. Yell at us on any social media.
Call us all the bad things.
We're not on X.
We were extremely ableist, racist, classist, sexist, and ageist in this podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, what's the other one?
We
were ageist. I think we might have hit all the bases.
I think we hit everything today. So hit us up. If you want to email us, stucktogetherpod@gmail.com, and stucktogetherpod everywhere else if you want to look us up, and let us know. Talk to us, and we hope you have a great week.
Yeah, we do. And let us know if you want us to talk about this kind of more serious stuff more, if you think our opinions are, insightful, or if you're like, please just talk about goofy stuff. Like, we'll do both still, but it would be, I'd love to know what people are, liking from us,
Yep.
I don't know if it'll, like, I want us to just talk about, what we're feeling, but I do like to know that, it's not like people were like, man, that was a horrible one.
We're desperate for feedback. Talk to us.
We need it. But yeah, thank you all for your support, and, thank you for sitting through this super red-pilled podcast right now.
Is it red-pilled?
I think, am I black-pilled?
On our next podcast, we're going to go over all the pill colors. Anyways, have a good time, guys. See you later.
Bye, guys.